Okay, here we go.
Good evening and welcome everyone, councillors for press and public, to this ordinary meeting of the Town Council. This meeting will be held under regulations allowing local authorities to meet formally using remote technology. These are available on our website, and this meeting is streamed live and it is available to view on our website. I will now ask the Town Clerk to carry out a roll call of all councillors and ask you to confirm that you are present. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Baker. I'll take that as a no. Councillor Blanchard Cooper.
Present.
Councillor Buckland.
Present.
Councillor Chase.
Present.
Councillor Long.
Present.
Councillor Malloy.
Present.
Councillor Northeast.
Present.
Councillor Price.
Present.
Councillor Rhodes.
Present.
Councillor Tandy. I think he's there. Councillor Tandy.
He is in the meeting, but he might be having technical difficulties.
Present.
Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Turner.
Present.
And Councillor Dr. Walsh.
Present.
That's you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 1 on the agenda, mobile phones. Members are reminded to switch their mobile devices to silent for the duration of the meeting and are asked to note the previously approved protocol for remote meetings, which is in place for the duration of this meeting. Item number 2 on the apologies, and there are none. Moving on to the next item 3 on the agenda, declarations of interest. The standing declarations are noted. Members and officers are reminded to make any other declarations if they become apparent or at the appropriate time during the meeting. Are there any further declarations? No, thank you very much. Item number 4 on the agenda is the minutes. The minutes of the meeting held on the 21st of January 2021 and the extraordinary meeting held on the 25th of February 2021 have been circulated and can be found on pages 6 to 19 in accordance with the Town Council Standing Orders section 9A. Members are reminded that no discussion on draft minutes of a preceding meeting should take place in relation to their accuracy. Can I therefore ask if everyone is happy that they be approved?
Agreed.
Yes, agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed. Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. Arrangements will be made to sign these formally when circumstances allow, and this will be recorded in the minutes. Item number 5 is Town Mayor's report and urgent items. I have a little bit to report. I've got a busy time for my end of my year as mayor. On the 7th of May, we're doing a market stall. 8th of May, we've got a cake sale. And then 9th of May, I've got a charity walk. So it's going to be a big flourish on the fundraising. As it stands at the moment, fundraising for this year stands at just under £5,000. So it's all going quite well. So now we have urgent items. And I believe you have one urgent item, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, just to let members know, we will write to you to give you a bit more information, but the Southfields Jubilee Centre for the next 3 weeks is going to be used by a consortium of 3 local GP practices for vaccinations. They will be covering their costs and so on in their hiring of it. But just let you know, I'll let you have some more information, but just in case you might hear that because the contracts have just been signed off.
Sorry, you broke up a bit then, Peter. Where is that?
Southfields Jubilee Centre, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
And sorry, can we ask which practices those are?
Yes, it's a Park Surgery, Fitzallen and Westcourt.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Moving on to the next item, item number 6 is public forum, and we do not have any requests on this meeting. So I'll move straight on to item number 7, correspondence and issues in respect of district and county council, and there are none. Item number 8 is reports from committees non-exempt. 8.1 recommendations from committees can be found on pages 20 to 26 in the original papers and 20 to 27 on the updated agenda, and I'll hand over to the town clerk to summarise.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, apologies for the paper dispatches, but obviously property and personnel only met on Monday, so we've tried to get that into you and updated. The other priorities the other item that isn't included on here is priorities, which is a separate item on the agenda. I'm not proposing to go through these in any great depth, but I'll take them one by one, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
And happy to answer any questions as we go through. The first relates to a recommendation from Policy and Finance to withdraw the notice of intention to leave Wissauk. Happy to answer any questions on that.
No, I think everyone's happy with that, Peter.
Would you like me to keep going through and then perhaps take all the recommendations on block, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
Okay. The second one is the annual investment strategy, again looked at by Policy and Finance, an important document that we need to sign off. Policy and Finance have recommended its approval to you. Where I hear nothing, Mr. Mayor, I'll move on, but after a subtle pause and see if anyone.
Yes, please
go back if necessary.
I'm sure everyone's gone through everything perfectly, so we'll have a subtle pause and move on.
Then we move on to governance and audit. Governance and audit considered the notice of motions that were brought to the last meeting of council, and have come forward and discussed at great length, and have come forward with a proposal, so a recommendation, which is set out in the appendix to the first circulated papers. The proposal is to amend Standing Order 13, which is set out before you and needs the approval of council to progress. Again, happy to answer any questions, Chair, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Peter. Do we have any questions?
I'll take that as a no then, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I'm happy with that, Peter.
Yep. The next one is a report I took to governance and audit, which needs the approval of council. This is regarding committee memberships and is as set out. What I will do following this meeting, if approved, is write to the group leaders so they've got plenty of advance notice. Obviously, the forthcoming by-elections will influence this significantly, how they fit, but at least people will be in position.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we can move on, Peter.
Okay, the next one is the anti-bribery, fraud and corruption policies review, which brings these policies together. This has been to Policy and Finance and also to Property and Personnel on Monday night.
Yes.
And is recommended for approval. Still looking good with no questions. So
yeah.
The annual review of internal controls, again, important document, and is recommended for approval. I was going to pick that up actually with the next one as well, which is the annual review of the corporate risk register. 2 recommendations there.
Yeah, happy, Peter.
And lastly, the staffing update. This is a continuation of the smaller arrangement that we made pending the arrival of the new Keystone building and the closure of Project 82. So a recommendation is to continue that arrangement. So if members are happy on block, then to take those recommendations, to approve those recommendations, perhaps we could do that by general assent, Mr. Mayor.
I'm happy to do that, Peter.
Agreed.
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 Yes, agreed.
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 I think that's okay. Then back to you then, Mr. Mayor. We'll take those all as approved.
Thank you. Item 8.2 on the agenda is committee minutes. Can I now hand over to Councillor Dr. Walsh as Chair of Policy and Finance to present these minutes?
Thanks. Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. I have much pleasure in presenting the minutes of the Policy and Finance Committee held on the Monday, the 15th of March 2021, and will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Walsh. We have Councillor Billy Blanchard Cooper.
Apologies, just having a slight technical hitch then. I can't quite find where it is on here because it's on my other computer, which now doesn't want to open for some reason. On this, regarding the Little Hampton, the arts section, there was a part in the original papers which said that we couldn't do the Dragon's Den scheme. I was wondering what the rationale for that was, as with COVID and everything, all other meetings were able to go ahead virtually. I wasn't quite sure as to why we couldn't actually still have that implementation of that, because if not, the whole decision process is, to me, is looking like it's going to be officer based for that. So I'd just like some clarification around that, if that's possible.
Thanks very much, Councillor Billy Blanchard Cooper. As far as I can remember, the reason was that it was a capacity issue and actually fitting it in with the other things, but perhaps the town clerk could expand on that if I've only given half the story.
There is a slight issue. Sorry, there is a slight issue with that through you, Mr. Mayor. The biggest issue for us is trying to get those events through that would be able to be robust against COVID and putting all the criteria in against that. I think the bit that slightly worried me about your question, Councillor Blanchard Cooper, was the bit about officers deciding it, whereas in fact it has gone through a consultation with members, and the members have approved it at Policy and Finance. It's not an officer, it's not a delegation to officers.
No, and I can confirm that was just that was, as the town clerk said, it was a decision taken at Policy and Finance Committee.
May I come back on that?
Yes, please do.
Yeah. Regarding it being officer-led, my point with that was, I believe within that meeting that the suggestions put forward have not been 100% confirmed that those acts would be able to be used, and therefore, if they are not suitable, what is the process? Will officers or other go out and find other ones to cover the ones they was going to use, or is there a different mechanism? I might be wrong in that, but that's what I believed from reading the minutes for that meeting. Sorry, reading the agenda for that meeting, is that the ones that were proposed are a proposal, but they might not actually be possible.
I haven't got the agenda in front of me. I've only got the minutes of the committee in front of me, but I'm quite happy for the town clerk to answer that.
Yeah, I think the full answer is that what we were trying to do was not guarantee everything. So those acts, up until, that's one of the reasons why we needed to make a decision and get on with it, was to get these acts booked. So my belief is that those acts will come. That's where we've done. But as with anything, there's always a reason why someone might cry off at the last minute or something like that. So what was actually perhaps erroneously minuted or picked up in the report was the fact that what we had a backup if necessary, so we wouldn't be left with a gap in the calendar. Now, if that happened at a late notice, I would imagine, I will confirm this back with members and pick up on it when we go through next committee if necessary. What would happen is, if it was very late, is I would be asked by the organiser, the person who's organising it, we have such and such has pulled out, which I hope doesn't happen, but could happen. We have got this and this, and I do some rapid consultation to bring in a substitute. But The proviso isn't there that they're very loose. The idea is these people are pretty firmed up, but it is good to have a backup if something fell by the wayside, which is a good thing. But I take your point, I understand where that's coming from, but it's not seen as a weakness, it's seen as a strength to have something just in case.
No, that's lovely, and it gives full clarification on that. So thank you ever so much. Cheers.
If I can just add slightly further on the Dragon's Den, it was decided that it wouldn't go ahead this year, but we would hope to have it next year. So it's certainly not been discarded. The idea is to have it next year.
Thank you, Councillor Dr. Walsh. We now move on to Councillor Mike Northeast.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a couple of points on the minutes. One is at 43.112. James, that's on page 32. I think I did bring it up at the meeting, and that was with regard to we've heard nothing from Carl Roberts at all, and I just wondered whether you'd heard anything from them.
Thank you very much, Councillor Northeast, for the question. I haven't. I had a business session with Carl Roberts today, and perhaps I should have raised it there. But nothing has happened one way or the other. I will raise it with him next week, and of course it's between Aaron and the developers. But as you quite rightly said, we want to make sure that this is properly previewed by councillors and residents who are going to have to live with it for years, and to make sure that we get it right, rather than some. I think the words he used was bog standard municipal art or something like that.
Yeah. No, it was just a matter that the road is being constructed now, and if we are going to put gateways in on that road, then now's the time to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I can through you, Mr. Mayor, I concur entirely with Councillor Northeast. Now is the time to be planning it and commissioning it, and rather than an afterthought. You're quite right. Yeah. Can I go on to the next point, Mr. Mayor?
Certainly, Mr. Councillor Northeast.
Mister, I like that. 43.114, and it's the public round part down the bottom. I just wonder, while we're ripping all the paving up, are we going to put a cable in for the clock so that we could have an electric motor in there in the future?
I'm not sure if that's actually been considered, and it's plenty of time still to do it, because the detailed design work on very specific things like that is just starting now, with the award of the contract announced publicly today to Ed Burton's, and I think that's an extremely good suggestion, because that clock is going to wear out one day. It's quite old already, and we do need to have something that will go forward in the future. So an electric clock would be excellent.
Well, I think it's one of those situations again, while the work's being done.
Absolutely.
Do it to get it over and done with. I saw the press release that came out about Egberton's, and that's good that it's going to be a local company. The only thing that bothers me now is when it's going to start, because it's looking to me as though we're going to be looking at disruption all over the summer months. Now where everything's going towards staycations and involving business. Oh, you're shaking your head, James. I'll let you come in.
No, it's now clarified that the actual digging up work, if I can put it that way, spade in the ground, will be September. So it'll be at the end of the summer season. It won't be during the peak summer season. And 2 other dates have been announced today for those. Actually, it's been copied to all Littlehampton Town councillors as well.
15th of April and 27th of April, James.
Two consultative meetings with local councillors to look at the detailed design with Ed Burton's are coming up at those dates that the Mayor has. Thank you for the meeting dates, Mr. Mayor. That's very kind.
No problem. Yeah,
so everybody's got an email today, so it's there for you to look at. Thanks, Councillor Northeast.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Northeast. I can now hand over to Councillor Blanchard Cooper as Chair of Community Resources Committee to present these meeting minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to present the minutes of the Community Resources Committee held on the 18th of February 2021, and I'm happy to answer any questions that might be coming up.
Councillor Ian Buckland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through yourself to Councillor Blanchard Cooper. Could, unless I'm totally losing the plot when reading, which is a possibility, could I please just have an update to what events Littlehampton Town Council, I mean, I know about the town show, but I just wondered what else, what other events are we actually planning to do in 2021? Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Buckland, and through yourself, Mr. Mayor. Off the top of my head, we are not doing Armed Forces Day, which is unfortunate, but it was felt that it was too close to the changes in the pathway out of COVID. I can't think of the technical name. So we thought that one would not be able to be progressed. We do still have Screen on the Green, which we've had conversations today to discuss the films that will be going out to public vote. So that will be coming up very soon. Obviously, as you quite rightly state, we have got the Town Show and Family Fun Day. We also have we'll have the Christmas light switch on event at the end of the year, assuming everything is in place and allowed to go ahead. There are also the smaller activities, which include the Sandcastle competition. Thank you, Sophia, who's just popped that up on our separate screen. We're also looking at looking at alternative ways of doing things, so such as the out and about sessions that we do for Easter. Where we can't do those, we are looking at doing different alternatives, which I believe include a like little search for people to find Easter eggs. There's no prize, unfortunately, but there's different things that can be done. And as I say, with the Sandcastle competition, that's going to be done in a COVID secure way. So we've still got a lot of different bits on there, but the main one we are losing, unfortunately, is the Armed Forces Day. And I believe officers are already trying to find ways to do something in a different manner to that, so including things online virtually. So I hope that answers your question, Councillor Buckland.
Thank you very much, Councillor Blanchard Cooper. Thank you.
No problem.
Mr. Mayor, could I just pick up on one small thing?
Yeah.
Because literally in the last sort of 24 hours, the search for the little things on trees, Easter eggs, isn't going to go ahead on a week's time, because we can't get it cleared with Aaron in that time to approve it, and so we're not publicising it or anything. And sorry, to get it done and approved by Aaron and publicised would have been impossible.
Okay, for yourself, Mr. Mayor, thank you for that update, Peter, and apologies for that because I haven't been made aware of that bit as of yet, but thank you.
Councillor Andrea Turner.
Sorry, I wasn't putting a question. I was letting Billy know that the word he was looking for was roadmap.
No problem. Councillor Dr. Walsh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. There is, of course, the bit that we referred to under policy and resources, the Love Local Arts programme that was referred to there, which is a 6-week programme of several different events. I haven't got the list in front of me, but there's a photographic competition. There is the pop-up jukebox. There is Sophia, help me with the other parts of it, but there's that whole programme, that latter may pop up in Pier Road as well, depending on the weather and the circumstances at the time. So there's that programme as well, which was detailed in the agenda for policy and finance, but isn't reported in detail in the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Sophia's just let us know that we have got the steel band and the musical bells. I wonder if anyone will make tubular bells. Then that would be impressive. Right, no more questions on that one. So I would now like to hand over to Councillor Tandy as Chair of Planning and Transportation Committee to present these minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I apologise for dipping in and out. The perils of Wi-Fi. I'm pleased to present the minutes of the meeting of the Planning and Transportation Committee held on the 1st of February and the 1st of March as set out on pages 56 to 68 in your... Oh, I've just spotted. It says 56 to 68 or 57 to 69 on the website agenda. That makes sense, and we'll be happy to answer any questions relating to them.
Councillor Buckland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through yourself to Councillor Tandy. I just wonder if Councillor Tandy could give us an update. I believe he went to Development Control for us, representing us on 2 or 3 planning issues, applications, and I just wondered if he could give us an update as to how he feels, or how did it go in reference to the Development Control meeting. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and correct, I will just say it was only one that I went for. There was 2 or 3 on the agenda, but I only spoke to one. So we spoke, I went on behalf of the unanimous decision of the committee was regarding an application in Bayford Road for houses of multiple occupation. Unfortunately, it was approved contrary to our request. The reason being that the reasons we gave, which was too many HMOs in one area, was not agreed by the officers. So to be fair to district members, they were, I think the word reluctant was used quite a few times as they were voting.
Thank you.
Yeah, great, Shane. I don't see any other questions, so I shall now hand over to Councillor Long as Vice Chair of Governance and Audit Committee to present these minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. I'm pleased to present the minutes of the meetings of the Governance and Audit Committee held on the 9th of February as set out on pages 69 to 74 in Councillors' papers, or pages 70 to 75 on the website agenda, and we'll be happy to answer any questions relating to them. We've already heard about the recommendations that were put forward for full council, which have been approved.
Thank you, Councillor Long. And I don't think we have any questions because, as you so rightly said, it's been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now, as Chair of Property and Personnel Committee, I am pleased to present the minutes of a meeting held on the 22nd of March 21, as set out on pages 76 to 82 on the website and agenda, and circulated under a separate cover to councillors, and would be happy to answer any questions relating to them. Councillor Blanchard Cooper.
Thank you, and apologies, I didn't realise I was still on speaker. So on this, on item 36.1.6, reception refiguration, I note that it says the proposals were the subject of a separate report on the agenda. However, I wasn't able to find that unless I've missed it somewhere, and was wondering if there's any clear drawings or plans, etc., to show what's being planned for that, because I couldn't find anything about that.
I shall pass that straight through to the town clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I'm surprised you couldn't find the report, first of all, because I can't really explain why you couldn't do that, but I have asked my PA to send you some of the pictures that were in there, the graphics that were in there. The chosen design is a location of the desk and so on is in a very similar place to where it is. When I say very similar, it isn't exactly the same place as the existing desk. What it isn't, though, hasn't got the significant divide, the high rampart elements that separates. So it's more of an open, friendly, welcoming scenario, which even with screens for COVID or whatever would still be open and friendly. It's got wheelchair access and so on such set into it, so that people aren't sort of set back, which certainly the current arrangements are catastrophically bad on that front. So it involves a screen and recarpeting and basically allowing the doors to open properly, so that people, when they wander in, are actually going straight to a reception area, rather than to well, what they do at the moment is walk in the door and look lost, because there is no logical way, there's the logical route to go. So we'll let you have those pictures, and I'd hope you've got them. But I am slightly mystified why you haven't had the report, because it was part of the papers and we did look at it, and it has got pictures within it.
That's great, and many thanks, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for letting me ask that question. It may be that I've got a problem with my desk at the moment. Some bits of paper have actually gone down there, so it may be that, which sounds like the worst excuse ever, but it is genuine. I even had this during CRC, if you remember, the other week. But yeah, so thank you ever so much for that. I just wanted to check for my own clarification on that, so thank you.
No problem. Councillor Andrea Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Apologies for my voice. I will be as clear as I can. I noticed on Facebook today that Rotherham Council have shown photographs of wildflower verges, 8 miles of wildflower verges. That's saved 25, I can't think of the word, 25k of lawn mowing that the council don't have to do because of these flower beds. And I'm wondering about a proposal put through to the district that more of our grass verges are converted to wildflower verges. Since this comes under property and personnel, and we've already approved putting 2 trials through, that it would be useful if Aaron could do something themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I know from a meeting I viewed the other day, Arran District Council are doing something with wildflowers. Obviously, most of the verges are West Sussex, but maybe Councillor Dr. Walsh could give us a little update on the wildflower planting at Arran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the concept has been embraced, and there are 2 trial areas I think we're going to be used to start with, subject to the approval from the County Council, because they own the roundabout and the verge area where the trials are going to take place. And you're quite right that the majority of the verges don't belong to Arran District Council, they belong to the County Council Highways Department. So essentially it's governed by the County Council. So if the trials are successful, there will be a move to roll it out further where appropriate. It won't be a, if I can use the word, blanket wildflower everywhere. It'll be an extension where people want it and where it's ecologically sound, visually sound from the road safety point of view, and pedestrian friendly as well. So there is a problem with wildflower meadows, because although it may save the grass cutting, planting a wildflower meadow doesn't mean no maintenance. Wildflower meadows do need to be maintained, otherwise they can become incredibly scruffy very quickly and be a reservoir for litter, all sorts of stuff, and end up looking very untidy very quickly. First year is always brilliant, but if you don't maintain it, each year afterwards it gets worse. So it's got to be handled very carefully, and a commitment made to properly maintain them as well.
Thank you, Councillor Dr. Walsh.
I agree, Dr. Walsh. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And now back to you again, Councillor Dr. Walsh. You're on mute, Councillor.
It's not me.
Oh, you did type a question. Sorry, Councillor Dr. Walsh.
So I do beg your pardon. I was going to answer the question about that you started, that the majority belong to the County Council. I was just going to feed that in.
No problem. Councillor Ian Buckland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to come in about the same thing in reference to. However, as much as I totally concur with Dr. Walsh, and I am in total favour of these, we also need to, you know, take on board the danger of them, and I mean that sincerely, as in the degree of, you know, that we've had the cutbacks in grass cutting and this, that and the other, and the amount of complaints that us as local town councillors, let alone if we're wearing any other hats, have received from the local residents about not being able to see. So I'll totally concur with Dr. Walsh, as in that it has to be done properly, and, you know, with thoughts about junctions and roundabouts and things like that, and that they can't be allowed to get overgrown as much as, you know, we want to support the initiative. It needs to be done very sensitively, and I totally concur with what Dr. Walsh was saying. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Buckland. Right, I don't have any more questions on that, so we move on to item number 9 on the agenda, which is officers' reports. Members, please turn to the updated report that has been circulated on page 83, and I will ask the town clerk to take us through this report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've just done a Councillor Blanchard Cooper and thrown my papers down the back of the table, but the I can do this one without them anyway. Each of the committees has looked at the priorities of the council and looked at them in great depth, has gone through each one of those priorities, discussed each one, and the outcomes of which are set out in the appendix. Some of them have already been discussed, strangely, as we've gone through this meeting as well. So in effect, I think all members will be grateful. I'm not proposing to trundle my way through each of the priorities on the basis that they have already been discussed, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions if members so have them. Otherwise, they need to be put to the vote to be approved, Chair. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have any questions? This has gone through all the committee cycles, and some of us have sat on more than one of the committees, obviously, and I'm very satisfied that it has had very good response. Councillor Michelle Malloy.
Hello. I know we just had loads of chat on the wildflowers. I know it's in our priorities, but in our priorities, does that include the proposal that the Mayor put forward in the meeting the other week? So that does include that. It's not a separate thing.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes.
Okay, lovely. And the only other one was, I know we spoke about it, but I couldn't remember the answer. With the, I've got paper everywhere. I can find it. The community wardens scheme, we're ticking the box off. Will we still get regular updates on how they're doing?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, categorically yes. The first, before you even get an update, you'll get a consultation meeting, probably online, so that we can pick up some of your priorities for local community wardens to undertake. And then each meeting of policy and finance will have them. I will try and also engineer something for council once they've got their feet under the table, so that they can have a proper, probably in the autumn at that point. Policy and finance before that, but in the autumn, so that they've got their feet under the table. You've seen what they are doing and how they're progressing, and you can have a more reason, and they'll know what they're doing.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you both. Now have Councillor Mike North East.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to ask, what is the valuation on Project 82?
Sorry, I was waiting for the red box, but don't think it's coming.
No, it's called back to me.
Sorry, that's the North East. We haven't got one yet. It's gone out. We've appointed the valuer. As soon as we got it, we'll let you know.
Thank you. Right, I don't have any more questions. Oh, Dr. Walsh. You're on mute, Dr. Walsh.
I knew you were just I knew you were just about to move on. I thought by the time I've typed, you'd have moved on.
No problem.
I just wanted to make a comment on the tree planting, and although I entirely support the report that we've got here, I'd just like to flag up for the future that when we've accomplished what's there, which is a big expenditure, Rosemead and the new road, the tree planting, that we can revert to perhaps looking, as we did for a few years, looking at other roads in Littlehampton where we can either replace trees that have been lost or indeed plant new trees, because I think nothing helps with a permanent improvement in the looks of places to have more trees with blossom or just green leaves or whatever, where they're approved by the county council, and I'd just like to see that happen.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Sorry,
please.
unfortunately, these are popping up right over the top of my little box, therefore I can't see whether it's gone red. But what we'll do is we'll note that, Councillor Dr. Walsh, because obviously we'll be looking again at priorities in 2 years' time, and which will fit quite neatly, and we'll put that as a suggestion into into the mix. I'm sure it'll get picked up, but it just needs to go into a.
Yeah. Thanks very much. I'm very grateful.
Thank you.
Man. Thank you.
So we don't need approve on that. Do we need approve on these, Peter? Sorry.
Oh, categorically, yes,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah. So is this all agreed?
I've got a question, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor Norface, please do.
Yeah, it's just on. I was following on from what James was saying about the tree planting, and could we perhaps have some sort of priority with regards to planting trees along the new acoustic barrier at the back of the houses, some of the houses in Highdown Drive? Now, I know some of them can't be done because they're so close, it's so close to the barrier, but that does really need softening, that barrier, because it is gonna, it's got a job to do, and the reason it's that height is because it would be stopping the traffic noise for the upper stories of the houses. You can't only have it 6 foot high, and then the bedrooms get they get all the traffic noise. So that's why it's that high. But it's not going to look very good at the end of some of their gardens. I mean, we've seen some of the poles that have gone up, and they are very, very close. And people have asked whether it can be softened by planting along there. And it's another one of those occasions, James, that the work's being done. If we can get in there and do it now, with the fencing being done, then you know, it's all done in one hit. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Can I come back on that?
Yeah,
So,
please do, Peter.
I mean, clearly we haven't got a budget for that or anything like that, and that would be a serious piece of work. However, what I'd suggest is that because we've got the county council, district council, and the town council at North Littlehampton steering group, that's probably the best place for it. To have that discussion, and then if any proposals come out, we could bring them back to this council and any other, because you know it's not our land or anything, so we would have all sorts of issues if we would start to get involved. But if there was some composite scheme or something, maybe we could join in with that. I don't know when the next. I should know, but I don't know when the next North Atlantic steering group is. So I'm looking at Councillor Northeast.
Yeah, I love the idea of the chairman taking it to himself.
Yeah, I knew you were looking at me, and I'm for the life of me can't remember when it is either.
I think. Would you be happy for it to go there though?
Yeah, no problem at all.
Yep.
Yeah, happy with that. Thank you. So is everyone in agreement with council priorities?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yes, agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. Item number 10 on the agenda is reports of representatives on outside bodies. Can I invite members to report on any business relating to their outside bodies as the elected representative of the town council? Councillor Blanchard Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for the Littlehampton Sportsfield Management Committee, I've not really got anything in particular to update. They are still progressing with making sure that the pitches are all kept in good condition. as well as trying to make sure that the finances are all in place to stay healthy for the future, and obviously making plans to come back secure as and when the roadmap allows. The Littlehampton Bonfire Society, they have completed their annual general meeting. I was looking forward to actually going to a meeting a couple of nights ago following their AGM. However, due to a health issue, I just really couldn't make it that night. But I know they have elected a new chairman who's keen to do what he can to make sure things progress. They are looking at doing a few changes. I don't know the full details of those yet, but they are seemingly in a stronger position than they have been for a couple of years committee-wise. So hopefully that will all be positive going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchard Cooper. Does anyone else have anything to report? No, I don't think they do. So as agreed at the beginning of this meeting, we will not move into exempt business. We will move straight to item 12, which is the officer's report on the new youth centre in Wick. Well, I will remind anyone with any questions, must not be financially sensitive, but it seems very forward and straight through, as this has been through all the cycles, that we can keep this in our normal meeting and not go to exempt. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just to clarify, the bits that we can't do are the costings that have been put forward by our agents, because obviously they will be a key element of the people who will be putting forward to tender. But if you just wanted to talk broad design and the way forward, which then that's not a problem. We need to receive the minutes of the subcommittee. We also need to agree this way forward and give the subcommittee delegated powers to make small changes within budget, because that will happen as with any proposal. There will be bits and pieces that might need altering. And the third element is to approve the not paying the VAT on the build, but putting it on the hires. Now, the reason that is always can be an interesting discussion is it mainly if you've got a very heavily booked community centre or something like that, or leisure centre, because obviously the costs will be massive in terms of the income you're bringing in. For this one, if you look at 20% of 1.5 million, that's £300,000 that we haven't budgeted for, and the income would be minimal. So I'd like to think it's a bit of a no-brainer, but we still need to formally approve that as a way forward. If you don't approve that as a way forward, we're going to have to do some serious thinking about the budget. So what I hope that the subcommittee, well, I believe the subcommittee and the people who prepared the work for us have done is pick up from the discussion at the last council meeting for the extraordinary council and take those forward. We seem to be in a slightly odd position because we did receive a bit of stick for not progressing it at the subcommittee, and it therefore should have, why they brought it to council, why don't you just get on with it? So I'm hoping that the proposal here, this council can approve, and then the subcommittee can get on with it. So, but I'm happy to answer any questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Peter. Do we have any questions?
I just think, Chairman, hasn't Councillor Tandy got to present the minutes of the?
Oh, sorry, Councillor Tandy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will formally present the minutes. I didn't know if I was actually presenting them on account they were still unconfirmed, I thought, but I wasn't sure.
So there are those that we need to receive the minutes, we need to agree the way forward, and we need to agree the VAT element in summary, Chair. Mr. Mayor.
Right, do I have agreement on the minutes from the subcommittee, please?
I think we're agreeing the recommendation, aren't we?
Yep, absolutely.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So
Agreed.
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 Yes, agreed.
You've got Councillor North East, Mr. Mayor.
Agreed.
Councillor North East.
I just wondered whether we were going to speak on any of this before.
You can, yeah. Sorry, that's what I was trying to explain at the preamble, and I apologise. Is that as long as we don't get into the pricing, the costings element of it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My fault. I should have kept this in exempt, and it wouldn't have all gone wrong. Right. Do we have any questions? Councillor North East, you're on mute.
Yeah. Just a couple of things, Mr. Chairman, on the minutes to start with, and that is I've just picked up on the fact of the way some of the minutes are worded, and that is if we look at 25.1.2, the fourth line down, where it says, and I wish when we have read copies like this, the words confirmed draft are not so strong on it because you can hardly read the writing under it. But on that fourth line at the end, and says as a more general community facility. Well, that's not what we were aiming for. We're not aiming for a general community facility. And could those words be changed, taken out, and just say after the words operate for community use?
That's through you, Mr. That's an absolutely fair comment.
And also 25.1.4, the same thing happens again, and that is the site would deliver a unique building for the community, and I think it should be a unique youth facility.
Yeah, it's a fair point, Mr. Mayor. Can I just say these minutes were put together at somewhat a haste, but it's absolutely fair point.
Oh, okay. Or you weren't expecting them to be read?
No.
Right, now, money-wise, I'm not going to talk about figures, but what I am going to talk about, I raised at the extraordinary full council meeting about the fact of us looking for grant funding. Now, I just wonder how that's going, whether we have been looking for grant funding, and because I do feel there's a lot of youth grants out there, there's a lot of sport grants out there, loads of different grants I think would cover a lot of this. And there's also one other thing while we're doing that. I think it's another one of those situations where if you're going to do it now, and that is to include solar panels on the building. And I believe again there's another area there where there's government grant funding, a lot of grant funding for solar energy and making public buildings more efficient. So I think that's something we should definitely be looking into now before we build the place without it on there and then regret it afterwards, or have to have it done afterwards, and it's going to cost us a lot more money. So that's just what I want to raise, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do you want to come back on that, Peter?
Yeah, the second point we'll just take back to the subcommittee. Quite happy to take that point back. The first one, we've been looking for grants from the word go. It's an ongoing search, but a sports one's not going to work. It's not a sports facility. It won't get a sports grant without cranking it into something else. If you recall, we had this discussion about Southfield's Jubilee Centre at the time, and as to how far we could push that to get to tick boxes, even in terms of the use of things like such as badminton. So the sports bid is outside it, but we are continuing to monitor the grants that become available. They aren't being directed at that at the moment. However, that doesn't stop us. What probably is more likely, and it probably not equally of great value will be great value to us, will be the grants that hopefully we can access that will be linked to equipping and also potentially running sessions there. So there will be grants. We believe there will be grants that we'll be able to stick into. Yeah. At the moment, there isn't a building grant out there, but it doesn't mean there isn't one about to appear at any moment. But we have been monitoring that for the last 2 years.
I just wonder, Peter, whether it's worthwhile looking at one of these professional bid writing agencies where they're looking for grants and they know where these grants are, and some of them even work on when they get you a grant, a percentage, that sort of thing.
They do.
not taking anything away from you or our officers, but they are professional people that are looking for grants and know the fields, know the areas all the time, and could come up with them.
I take your point, Councillor North East, and I do think it's you know, that there's a value judgment in there about. I mean, we have got our fingers on the pulse of the main grants that come out. What I would now caution you, because we've been looking for the last 2 years, what I didn't do was finish that off, and I should have done, is that if we enter a bidding process now, there is another huge risk that sets, which is delay, because you know the bidding process will take, almost certainly for these ones, will take several stages, and at that point the process that we're going through would have to wait, because we wouldn't be able to do it on something that wasn't committed. If you sorry, on something where we committed the expenditure, we wouldn't retrospectively be able to get a grant. So we are at the point now of needing to proceed, but I do think that monitoring and taking forward the grant applications, sorry, the grant opportunities is really important, and we will continue to do so. But I don't think, I think from what members said at the last council meeting, I don't think there's any desire whatsoever to risk any more delay on it.
No, not at all. Thank you.
Did you want to come in, Juliet?
No, it's only to say Peter's covered most of it, Chair, but the professional grant funders that are out there, they do charge a fee for their services also, so that would have to be taken into consideration.
Thank you. I now have Councillor Michelle Malloy.
Hello. It's not wholly about these minutes, it's about the mention of the extraordinary full council we had, and that some people thought it was a waste of time. I personally didn't think it was a waste of time, and I don't want officers to think that I believe it's a waste of their time. And I think decisions like taking the whole first or second floor off of a building that we've got in design is really important to go to the full council, and I think it's the correct way to do it. I think the confusion was that we were looking at the 2-storey plans and not the 1-storey plans. It would have been nice to have them both there. I don't want people to think it was a waste of time having that meeting.
Thank you. Do I have any other speakers? Councillor North East.
Yeah, me again. Sorry about that. Just one other thought that's come into my head. We did quite a big article and a picture in progress about 2 or 3 episodes ago, editions. There's a meeting of progress tomorrow. Do you think something should go out now with the revised drawings on and the revised plan, just an update? And perhaps it should be worded in such a way that it's actually the layout now is better for a youth facility than having the upstairs as it was before. We actually haven't lost any floor area. We've actually gained. We've got more floor area than the old building. It's not going to be as high and as obtrusive, you know, and it's a better layout for a youth facility.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. I've asked Sophia, who's doing the meeting tomorrow, I'm not, to make sure that it came up at the editorial board tomorrow.
Thank you.
Can I just quickly say something?
Yes, Councillor Long.
Thank you. Just to answer Mike's suggestion, it is already on the agenda for tomorrow morning's meeting, so we can talk about it then. Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrea Turner.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to agree with Councillor North East about the solar panels. I think it's very, very important that we look at having solar panels installed on this new building. It will reduce electricity costs, but apart from the environmental benefits from having solar panels, and I'm sure there are grants available to be able to help purchase these, to be able to have them installed when the building's being done. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's already noted for the subcommittee, isn't it, Peter?
Indeed, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah, so any other speakers? So we're moving on to approval now, Peter.
Well, over to you then, Mr. Mayor. Yes, just take the recommendations through.
Yep. Are we doing them on block, Peter?
If members, if you wish to. Sorry, I'm going to have to either disappear and run and get my papers that fell off the back of the paper, off the table, or if members are happy, just to take it on block.
Run through them if it helps, Chair.
Please, Juliet.
Everybody's got them. I just do them on block.
Yeah, is everyone happy to do them on block?
Agreed.
Yep.
Yeah,
Agreed.
we'll do them on block.
Agreed.
Chairman, can I just say something? These recommendations are on the exempt paper, which we're now doing this in public.
Yep.
Do you not think we should read those recommendations out for the record so that the public know exactly what we're voting on?
Yeah, fair point. Councillor North East, thank you. Can you do that, please, Juliet?
Yes, certainly. Members, I'll just run through those now for you then. The subcommittee is recommending that council, for the first item, opt to tax the new youth facility building at Eldon Way. And just for clarification, that means that the VAT that the council incurs on the build and associated costs can be recovered, and that future hire charges will have to include VAT. Is there general assent for approval on that recommendation?
Agreed.
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 Thank you. The second recommendation is to approve the single-storey design concept and delegate authority to the subcommittee to approve any minor amendments to the final design and costs within the maximum budget approved, and that's £1,554,657.
Agreed.
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 Thank you. And finally, to note, the project timeline will be reassessed once the design is confirmed.
Agreed.
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 Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much indeed. I should now bring this meeting to a close at 19:32. Thank you all for your attendance, and thank you to Peter, the Town Clerk, and the Assistant Town Clerk, and all the backroom staff. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Good night. Good night.